Hi.
Hi, I'm Cece.
And I'm Caspar.
Follow us on our adventures discovering new places.
We will be interviewing the business owners about their business.
We will also provide reviews on places we've gone and visited. And hit the subscribe button and hit the bell to be notified on our next video. Thank you very much.
What can you tell us about this museum?
Well, I can tell you it's a great place to come and visit if you're interested in railway heritage, which has various things to do with the West Australian Government Railways and also the Midland Railways. So come on in and have a look around and never know what you may find.
And do you feel it'd be educational for children of any particular age group?
So coming from the age 6 and upwards would have that really good understanding, and anyone who's younger may be able to see and know but may not really understand the exact details. But it would be great for any age from 6 right up to whatever, say 99, 100.
And I believe that there are some plaques in here that you can read.
Yes, there's various plaques that talk about the various steam locomotives and the various rail cars within there that are very well detailed, providing you with the necessary information to tell you about what you're going to looking and what you're looking at, and giving you the history as well.
And how do I get here?
You can get here via rail, by catching the train to Ashfield train station, and twice a year they have a rail fest, which you can get which the details will be on their website, which you can get a shuttle bus from Bassendean train station.
Alright, thank you very much. The Xanthus railway station used to be on the Nullarbor Plain railway line. Xanthus, a typical Trans-Australian railway station. Here's some little bit of a view of it. Xanthus School was a carriage without wheels. That was originally part of the camp train during the construction of the Trans line. It stayed in that carriage until the school closed in the early 1970s. However, it took until 1912 before any work was started on the Commonwealth Railway standard gauge line, built between Kalgoorlie and Port Augusta. Construction began from each of the line. We reached Xanthus, 209 kilometres from Kalgoorlie by the end of 1914, and the station opened a little later. Even before the railway opened, this typical wayside station was operating as a post office. This lasted until 1920. There were station masters appointed there from 1917 until 1955. It was a busy facility with a wood shed triangle, small sheep and cattle yards, coal stage, crew quarters and reservoir. The water facilities were vital for steam locomotives. And if we have a look through here, you can see a red and white engine called the GM1 class, the standard gauge diesel. This one needs to be restored. This is one of the trains that went across the Nullarbor. It was named Robert Gordon Menzies, and it's a traditional Commonwealth Railways maroon and silver livery. GM1 was gifted to Rail Heritage WA as it is conditioned by the Australian Government. Built in 1951, GM1 was the first mainline diesel locomotive in Western Australia and the first interstate diesel in Australia, being able to operate diesels instead of steam locomotives across the Nullarbor reduced the logistical challenges of supplying water and coal in the remote areas. During 5 decades of almost continuous service, GM1 could be found heading the Trans-Australian and later the Indian Pacific passenger train on its regular 4,000 kilometre journey between Sydney and Perth. After a 3,600 kilometre road journey from Parkes in New South Wales, GM1 went to UGL, where it was lifted and back onto rail. It was then moved a short distance and finally arrived at the Railway Museum in Bassendean on the 11th of April 2022. And I look forward to seeing it restored to back to its original. The original Trans-Australian Railway between Kalgoorlie and Port Augusta was 1,711 kilometres long and includes the longest length of straight track in the world, 478 kilometres.
Today we are at the Bassendean Railway Museum and we'll be filming various assets located within the museum. The museum was established in the 1960s to preserve the West Australian government railways, steam engines and various other rolling stock items. We have various examples of steam engines from the FS class to the P class to the U class. The U class was a fairly unique steam locomotive in Western Australia because unlike the other ones that burnt coal, this one burnt the oil. And over to the left we have another example of a W class 953. We also have a PR class Ashburton. Also there is the DD class, and here is the Greenmount loco, the F class 549, which as I was saying is a sister locomotive to the S class Bakewell, located at East Perth Passenger Terminal.
This engine, the A11 steam locomotive, has been everywhere. Well, that's what the little plaque says at least. A11 was one of the 3 class engines delivered in 1885 to operate the new railway, which had been extended to York from Chidlow's Well. After the introduction of G classes in 1894, the A class locos were regulated to branch line and shunting duties, though they were one of the most successful steam locomotive types in Australia. A11 spent most of its working life between 1913 and 1954 in Bunbury as a shunting locomotive, but also at Gelton, Northern and Fremantle depots. However, at times it worked all around the state. In 1925, A11 was transferred to Kalgoorlie to haul the fortnightly mixed train from Kamballi to Whitehope, an isolated former wood line south of Boulder. The following year it was hired for 3 months by Buckingham Brothers to work logging trains on their private railway east of Collie. A11 was withdrawn from service on the 2nd of January 1955. However, it became the centre of attention when the railway painted in the new large green livery for display for Royal Show Week, October 1955. From there it was taken to Perth Zoo so that children could play on it. It stayed there until October 1969, where it became the first locomotive to enter the Railway Museum here. It was repainted in its original black livery for its centenary in 1985. So there we go. There it has a little bit of lively history. Wow.
Here we are with an example of an X class. This particular one is the XA class 1405, which was actually built as a prototype diesel for Western Australia in Scotland. This particular, the XA had the alleyway between, so you can go between locos. The X class did not. We'll show an example shortly. One of the bigger examples of steam engines in West Australia was the V class, followed by Ws and PM classes. And for the littlies out there, there is also Thomas the Tank Engine. We also have the ES class locomotive. And we have a very early steam locomotive which was used in Western Australia, KT. The particular dining car which we're about to look at was built in the early 19th century. One of the trains that used to run up to on the narrow gauge was referred to as the overnighters. Here is a sample of one of the gents' washrooms, which is a lot different to what we have today. And here is one of the sleeping cabins. As we continue to walk down, here is a sample of one made up. And at the front you had the ladies' washroom. The particular carriage we just walked through was known as AQQUM, which was the classification here in Western Australia for a sleeper car. Here is a sample of the X-Class that I was saying about earlier, without the section between the two. This particular carriage was known as the Vice-Regal car, which was used during the Queen Elizabeth and Queen Mother's visit to Western Australia. One unique feature about this particular rail car is it contained a full-sized bathtub. As we go for a walk down, we'll have a look at various features within this car. Even an elegant dining room. Various forms of freight cars on display as well, from tankers to vans to the flat cars, and also various other wagons as well. Towards the end of the museum we have a sample of a Y-class and also one of the very early diesels that ran up in the iron ore trains up in the Pilbara. Here we are, have a look at the AQS class. As you can see, the ladies' lavatory. This was another form of sleeping car as well as day sitting car. Here's a sample in the sleeping car mode and a couple of old suitcases there for it as well. Some of them had adjoining doors as well. This one here was known as the gents' toilet. As we move through, back before we got the new Australand here in Western Australia, it was held by steam and eventually by diesel. As we walk through, this is a sample of the buffet car, which was used This particular car we're now walking through was known as a shower car, which was used on the overnight trains, as of course you can understand, self-explanatory, used for taking a shower. Also in the early years in Western Australia, you had the Midland Railway Company, which would often operate up in the mountains areas up towards Helena Valley and up towards Chidlow area, and I believe as far as Geraldton. here is one of our early forms of rail cars, AY452, which before the electrification, this would have been a common sight on the railway line. And we have Bruce here from the West Australian Railway Historical Society, which is going to have a talk to us about the standard gauge dining car.
Hi, this is the standard gauge dining car from the first Trans-Australian Railway train, October 1917. It was built in, I'm not certain, but built in Port Augusta. Original framework is still here. Most of this woodwork is still original. And of course it has the clerestory roof, which was a feature of the first Trans-Australian train, which could be opened for ventilation. It was air conditioned in 1937 for more comfort, and it also was rebuilt. The galley was rebuilt when it was on hire to the Spirit of the West train that ran around Perth metropolitan area about 10 or 12 years ago. So the galley is fully modernised and electric, and still fully serviceable. So you would have in here, if you compare this with the narrow gauge dining car galley, very similar setup. This is all electric, so it's a bit different than the narrow gauge car, which is still wood fired. But there would be a crew of 3 in here: the cook, the cook's assistant, and a helper. The stewards would be in this part here, taking plates off the racks and whatever, taking the food out to the passengers and bringing empty dishes back in for washing, and so it would run. And like all dining cars, it has an access corridor down the side, so the dining cars are usually placed in the middle of the train, so that first class passengers one side and second class the other, and people could get to and move up and down through the full length of the train.
The English, Scottish and Australian Bank, now part of ANZ, and the Commercial Bank of Australia, now part of Westpac, with costs shared pro rata. There were 2 escorts for each trip supplied by the local banks on a pro rata basis to bullion shipped. The ANZ was the major shipper, followed by the National and so on. Thus the ANZ organised the escort roster and supplied one officer with the National next. Escort officers were armed and paid an amount that varied over the years. However, it was considered by the employers to be good money. They departed Kalgoorlie on Tuesday, spent Wednesday and Thursday in Perth before taking the Thursday night express back to Kalgoorlie in time to go to work on Friday, so places were much sought after by some. The escort procedure started at 3:30 p.m. on Tuesday, when the bullion bed was shunted to the platform opposite the parcels office for secure loading. The banks coordinated their arrivals to be ready to load the gold boxes in one continuous operation.
The video was playing while I was in there, and I'm not sure when or where it started, but I'm sure that if you were to come to the museum, you'd be able to hear it for yourselves. Very interesting recorded video. I'm just going to take a little bit of footage of some of the engines, I should say. And we have the Noel Zeppelin exhibition hall, which has got a lot of photos, various history of the West Australian railways in it. I won't film it all, as I felt it would be good just to come and see passenger trains, suburban and steam. Some of the old crockery and utensils that could have been used. on various of the trains. Just little bits of memorabilia and station signs. More of the train photos. Bowen's Santa Special. We don't have a Bowen store anymore in Western Australia anyway. It's been taken over by Myers. But that's another story. Some of the old tickets, railway tickets. Nowadays we use a smart rider. Down here, this is what we're using now, but as I say, how things have changed, all electronic, pay on. But that's not what we're videoing today. Little travel bags, playing cards. Various situations. And at the back in here we have a model railway exhibition for the children, which I won't video at the moment. As I have heard, young children around, so they could well be in there viewing the model railway. Just and a little Thomas play train, or a little sit-on for the children. Very educational.